y'all? Welcome back to the show. Hope everybody is doing great out there as always. Today we're continuing down this path of rookies in the scouting report on Jermaine Burton, now Cincinnati Bengal, former UGA and Alabama Roll Tide wide receiver. And okay, I'm gonna say this right off the bat. I was not a fan. Okay, going into the draft process, going back to his UGA days. I mean, even with Bama, I was not necessarily the biggest supporter of a Burton, but I'll tell you right now, I am smitten on what this guy could potentially be as I did the full deep dive on his film. I mean, I knew about him, I watched his film, and I was like, yeah, he's good, but is he going to be a great prospect? I am smitten, no question, on what this man could potentially be. So let's talk pros, cons, and a grade score for a Jermaine Burton, now Cincinnati Bengal. So like I'm saying, when you watch so many players evaluate so much talent, you start to pick out things that you really truly like about your prospects. And then when they hit in the pros, you know you're doing something right. So when it was talking about a Jermaine Burton, I was like, there's so many aspects of his game that I wish were better. But I mean, the things that he does do well, oh my goodness. I mean, your pants will definitely get wet when you start seeing him play on this field. But let's talk about the team that drafted him, those Cincinnati Bengals, round 3, pick 16. And during draft day, I thought, okay, that's a little high. I mean, you guys are trying to reach a little bit when you guys got, fabulous talent like a Jamar Chase and a T. Higgins. But I get it, man. You knew that Tyler Boyd was going to be on the way out, which he did. He left. He went to those Tennessee Titans. You had to understand, get yourself another, very sure-handed, quality wide receiver to get and promote this wide receiver room that much better with a Joe Burrow. And I'm telling y'all, man, with this depth you have right now, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, like I said, Higgins on that franchise tag. Will he get his big contract extension? He's been dealing with a lot of injuries. We will see how it does shake down. Can Burton replace somebody like a T. Higgins? That's a little bit of a stretch for me, but I think that it's not out of the question. I think if they don't want to pay a T. Higgins, this is the season they can say, well, Burton, you're up, man. Let's see what you can do. They got Trenton Irwin. He's showcased the fact that he can make plays from time to time all over the field. He's slotted in right now as the wide receiver 3, but he could be beat out by somebody like an Andre Iosivas. Told you, man, I love that guy's name. It's like the Terminator. Iosivas is a very good, talented wide receiver as well. A lot of people sleeping on him. Charlie Jones got some potential slot ability also. His name does not get turned around in a lot of circles because we haven't seen it necessarily on the field as much, but he's a decent one as well. You got Kendrick Pryor, Cedric Jackson, Kwame Lassiter II, Cole Burgess, and Hakeem Butler rounding out the rest of the squad here in training camp and the preseason. So, I mean, when you're talking about what Burton has to do to get on this field, it's jump somebody like an Andre Iosivas, and a Trenton Irwin. You got to understand, if he wants playing time, if he wants to be the guy, you got to, kick out the number 3 role right now. Until what they do with a T. Higgins, could then we see, let's just, speculate at this point, if T. Higgins does get removed from this roster in future seasons, could we see a Chase Burton and Irwin show or a Iosivas show? We absolutely could. I mean, they could absolutely add later on. But what we see with these Cincinnati Bengals as of far today, we got Blondie, Joe Burrow behind center coming back from his injury, and he's got a plethora of weapons. And Jermaine Burton, definitely for me in round 3, is better value today than I had envisioned or when it was draft day. So I am not hating on the pick whatsoever. I am absolutely a huge fan. But let's talk those measurables. As always, he stands 6 foot, almost 200 pounds, 196. He is 23 years of age, played a boatload of games, 50 contests for 132 in receptions, 2376 in yards, a nice 18 on the average, and 22 receiving touchdowns for a Burton. So he was, statistically speaking, in those 50 games. It's a lot of games, okay? And we're not going to, sugarcoat that whatsoever. It's a lot of games, so you would expect his stat line to be overinflated, and it's not bad. He did put up a lot of yards on limited receptions, so that's a good thing. He's instantly going to say, you get the ball in his hand, he can make it down the field quite a bit. But let's talk those pros, because he's got so many of them. Good size, lean frame. And I'm okay with the lean frame because, I mean, the 200, he wears it really well. His torso is extremely long, so he looks very lean as he holds it down. 205, 210. I mean, 210 might, drop his speed back. So you kind of want to see the 202, 205. Excuse me, and I think it will be that much more better and promoted for him and his body type in the NFL, man. Good athletic ability, body adjustments are phenomenal in this man, okay? And he's not an elite wide receiver, I'll just preface that right away, but what you're going to be expecting him to do, he's so good at what he does. And when I went back in, I knew already, so I'm going to preface that as well. I went through all his film that I could before the NFL draft. When I do the deep dive, I'm going through much more film, and he is a pleasant surprise, no question. With the athletic ability, the body contorting, the adjustments, over the shoulders, sideline catches, so good in this man. He can absolutely do so many things well for this offense. Play strength is good. A lot of people think it's not. I'm okay. He's got some physicality. He's not going to bully anybody off the line, like off a press coverage, but the strength is good enough for what you're going to be asking him to do. Hopefully it's not just going on the 9 routes, but I think he can get off the press decently well with his packages, his release packages that he does have, and the hands are very strong, so that's where he's pushing people in the chest plate, and he's able to get around. I do not dislike his strength, where I know some scouts don't like it, and they say he's very, not a physical wide receiver, but I'm going to say it's good enough. I'm planting my flag on that one. I think it's definitely good enough. Tape speed, absolutely better than tested. He ran the 4.45 40 time. He's got pull-away jets, man. Second gear is definitely in full display when he is in the open field, especially when the pass is going deep. We saw Milroe from those Roll Tide, Alabama contests where Marlo, I forget his name now. I think it's Merlot. He chucks it down the field, and you see a Burton absolutely pull away from his defensive back when he's already 35, 40 yards down the field. He has that second gear, and it is absolutely phenomenal. Pull-away jets are definitely on display and something to get very excited about. He's got a sound, burst, twitchy ability to go along with that fluidity and fluid running style. Absolutely love it in my running backs and wide receivers, hence why I'm even like, okay, you're starting to go up my board, Burton, because I'm a big fan of what he's able to do in the open field, how he's able to separate with his speed, how he's able to separate with a little bit of a push-off when it is those contested catches. I'm a big fan of his running style. There is a little bit in the cons I'm going to touch, but his fluid running style, absolutely, with the burst and twitchy movements, definitely on display. Good off-the-line footwork, like I'm saying, whether he's using that, hand to the chest plate to get off, he can absolutely do it with his feet as well, man. He's little side steps, shuffle steps, stutter steps. I mean, that's tough to say, but he's able to do all these things pretty well. It's not exceptionally well, but he does this well enough to at least get into the open field, man. Ball tracking deep is very good, whether it be over the shoulder, the comeback routes on the sidelines, the 50-50 balls. He can absolutely do this. Solid jumping ability to win those 50-50 balls, even when he's tracking the ball. I mean, it's all on display. Go watch his film. You're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. Hands overall, I'm going to say they're solid. There is a knock in the cons as well, but I'm going to sit here and tell you that hands overall, very strong, big, and he's able to corral this football in. He is a hand catcher more than he is a body catcher, which I love as well. So I'm going to say overall his hands are good. Maybe you'll see a couple drops here and there. I'll touch that in the cons, but his hands are absolutely pluses for me, man. Good secondary wide receiver, field stretcher. Is this going to be where he's home in the NFL? I hope that they round him out just a little bit more, give him some more opportunities, but when you're talking 2,300 yards and 18 yards per catch, you know why they brought him here to Cincinnati, to give them some more promotive ability down the field, keep the defenses honest. Now you got no Joe Mixon here. You got somebody like a Zach Moss. You know you got to keep defenses honest with no stacked boxes, and you need the field stretching ability, even though you got guys like Jamar Chase. This will only aid and help both Chase and T. Higgins, absolutely, to pull coverage from their side, man. Productive TD wide receiver. There is nothing you can say. He's got a nose for the end zone. 20.5 on the average per catch. Last season was a career high. Just absolutely lights out with Milroe from Bama. I'm probably saying his name wrong. If I am, check me in the comments. I do apologize if I got his name wrong. It's just one of those names, man. They evade you from time to time, and then you just start saying it wrong. 15 TDs last 2 seasons for a Burton with Bama. So it was a good transfer move to go over to the Roll Tide, and it did promote and uplift his draft stock, no question, even though he wasn't necessarily the best with the UGA Bulldogs. Let's talk some cons. He's got him as well. And I mean, I'm going to start off right off the bat. He never felt like the guy when it was either Bama or UGA. And that's a big one. When you're talking about a wide receiver, you're drafted in the third round, you're hoping the potential could eventually uplift to be a wide receiver one. I don't ever think we're going to see that from a Burton. Is the potential there for him to be potentially a very good wide receiver one? I'm going to probably sit here and say no as of today. Will it surprise me if he does? That's, again, a no. I think that there is potential for that, but I think he's going to be the great secondary wide receiver in the NFL, not necessarily being the wide receiver one. And I think that's okay, because I think this is where he's going to be promoted that much better. Seeing lesser coverage, seeing the wide receiver, elite wide receiver ones pulling coverage from his side so he can make, great plays down the field. Never a 1,000-yard receiver. And I mean, going with UGA, you had Ladd McConkey, you had Brock Bowers, then you go to Bama. I mean, it's one of these situations you hoped in Bama you would have seen him crack the 1,000 yards. Just didn't happen. And I mean, okay, Alabama wasn't necessarily the same team in previous seasons as they were last year, but he got close. I mean, he was in that almost 800-yard range. I mean, so again, stat lines were good enough. It just never cracked the 1,000, so we got to list it as a con. Full route tree is in question, but it's only on the developmental scale for me. I do believe that with more tutelage, playing with guys like Chase, playing with guys like T. Higgins, he should absolutely learn on the fly and, earn his route tree that much better. And I think once he does that, utilizes his speed with the full route tree, this man could be very dangerous in the NFL without question, man. Route precision, cut steps, needed just a little bit more refinement. So when you see guys with a lot of speed, a lot of jets, a lot of burst, they're going to use that to separate more than they do with the route precision. And that's okay, I get it. But once you start to lose that speed, lose that burst, if you want to stay in the NFL, you got to be able to, be a pro at what your craft is, and the craft's got to be a little bit more sharper cuts, get your defensive back, on skates just a little bit more. It's not dreadful whatsoever. He can get open. He can make cuts. The comeback routes are probably his best right now, but when you're talking, double moves, it is a little sloppy at times. Would like to see some route precision in that sense, man. He's been seen to lose his footing in the open field, body balance. It's just one of those things. You're going really fast, body momentum, and he trips over his own feet. He's stumbling out there from time to time. Just want to see that cleaned up, and I think that he's going to be able to do that as well. Just more of a knock than a full-blown con. He's got some concentration drops, okay? And this is why I said, overall, his hands are good. I do like them. They're solid. But he did have more concentration drops, more so at UGA than he did with Bama, so it's okay. I think he's improving. I think he's learning, and what we're seeing in training camp so far, he's making some very good catches, especially with those 50-50 contested balls. He's got big hands, man, and he's going to be able to corral the football, and he will challenge everybody on those 50-50 contested balls. Love that about him, but he could see some drops from time to time, especially when he's going deep all the time. I mean, the percentage, it's a low percentage toss, so eventually you're going to see some drops in the open field when he is going deep. Field awareness, just a little bit more improvement. Give your quarterback better windows to throw to. He kind of doesn't understand where to plant himself for his quarterback to be extremely friendly for his quarterback, as he is, basically relied upon to go deep, do the 7s, do the 9s, and then on those comebacks on the deep routes, going, 25 yards down the field. So we will see how this does work. I do believe he is playing with some of the best wide receiver talent in the NFL in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, so he will understand, and playing with Joey B, he'll tell him, move over to the left or right by a yard, and that's your better window. He definitely will improve in that sense. Is he going to be just a deep threat in the NFL? More a statement than a con. But I hope that they do round him out. And I think if they pigeonhole him just to be the deep guy, it kind of, it sucks, because I do believe there is far more talent in this man's game than just being a straight field stretcher, no question. But for grading purposes, I was so impressed with the full deep dive. I got him, up my board quite a bit, because I do like the potential. I do love the skill set. 76.3% for a Jermaine Burton. Like I said, I am smitten. I'm a big fan. And I think landing with the Cincinnati Bengals, if Joey B can stay on the field, stay out of the medical room, we could see a very tough decision for these Bengals to not pay A.T. Higgins. But again, we'll see. Burton definitely's got to showcase that on the field. I mean, we're just opening training camp, so there will be a lot of ups and downs. But I mean, he is definitely one of these guys. Impressed me in a very big way, and I think he's a quality secondary wide receiver. So there you have it. That is Jermaine Burton, former UGA Bulldog in Alabama. Roll Tide, now Cincinnati Bengal. I'm very impressed. Like I'm saying this whole time, I think he is a quality wide receiver and will likely showcase that. Maybe even in year one, we will see him take the Tyler Boyd role and just run with it. No question. I mean, no pun intended. He's a fast runner, no question. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments, give me your thoughts, and we'll see you next time. I am out.